Welcome to Interesting People with Bob Brill. And in this episode, we have a really special treat for you. We all have interesting jobs, and this person has had many of them and continues today to hold an interesting job. Every once in a while, you meet one of those special people, and while you may never have heard the name Salli Sachse, you no doubt have seen her over the years. In the 1960s, she was one of those sensuous bikini-clad girls in more than a dozen beach party movies, a heartthrob for many a young man, and I have no problem telling you I was one of them. After she chose to leave Hollywood, she had a career as a fashion model in Europe. She also lost her husband in a tragic plane crash, only to return to the U.S. and earn a PhD in counseling, where her new career had her working with children. Well, today, she continues to thrill audiences with her fine art and even sells them on her website, which we'll get to later in the program. It's my great pleasure to welcome in Salli Sachse. Salli, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm great. It's bright and sunny here, and it makes my heart sing.
Well, so tell me how this whole beach party movie thing got started for you. From what I read once, that you kind of just got plucked off the beach. Is that how it all started?
Yes, I was. My husband was a lifeguard at Windansea Beach, and two men that we know were in Hollywood selling a product that they did. So they came down to the beach and they chose about eight of us. So we drove up to Hollywood in a station wagon, two station wagons, and we went to American International Studios on Sunset Boulevard. And we stood around the desk where Sam Arkoff and James Nicholson were. And they had a look at us and they said, you, don't call us, we'll call you. And so Monday morning, Linda and I were chosen. And Friday we were chosen. So Monday we had to be on the set. That's how it happened.
Interesting. It's one of those Hollywood success stories. I guess you might say. It's everybody dreams. Well, gee, I'm going to meet at. I'm going to be discovered at Hollywood and Vine.
Beach blanket, bingo. Beach blanket, bingo. Beach blanket, bingo. That's the name of the game.
Take a blanket made for two now.
On a boy and a girl.
That's a game for me and you now.
Yeah, let's give it a whirl. Beach blanket, bingo. Beach blanket, bingo. Beach blanket, bingo. That's the name of the game.
Every lad and
Every lassie.
You always want to be an actor.
Well, as a young girl, it's probably a fantasy. But I had been Miss La Jolla, Miss this and that, and had made a lot of appearances and Queen at the Fair and all of that. So I guess it was just sort of building up to that.
Yeah. So, my personal favorite is Ski Party, which I want to get to in a little bit, but I want to talk to you about the beach party movies themselves. I mean, they were meant to be fun to watch. Obviously, they were meant to be guys watching girls, in bikinis and things like that. What was the set like? What was it like on the set with the stars and the non-stars that you had to work with?
Well, we sat around waiting. We chit-chatted amongst ourselves, and then we would be called on the set, and we'd have to turn into a very smiley, happy persona. And Frankie and John, was it John Ashley?
So we had Frankie Avalon.
Oh, pardon me?
You had Frankie Avalon. And
Yes.
Hello.
So it was always fun because there were jokes and it was a very lighthearted experience, and it was a lot of fun. And well, we tried to stay out of trouble.
So it was more you guys actually had roles as opposed to like central casting where your background and you get I imagine some of the girls were background though, right?
Yes, some of them were, and Linda and I were always they called us the bookends. So they would place us at one end of a lineup. So we were the bookends.
Yeah, I
Okay.
wondered about that because when I looked on IMDb and I was looking on some of the cast lists, and it said bookend one, bookend two, and I thought bookends. Okay, I understand bookends, but how did that fit into your role in the films?
Well, Bill Asher was the one that said, okay, book on the set, and he's the one that gave us that name in Malibu, and it just traveled with us to all the movie sets.
My first personal favorite is Ski Party, which kind of wasn't the beach movie. It was the ski movie, and I always remember the one scene with you and I don't know who the other girl was, but Dwayne Hickman and Frankie Avalon were dressed in drag, and they were coming
Oh
into the
yes,
lodge,
yes.
and they were dressed in drag because they were trying to figure out how to get to the girls, and figured the girls, being a girl, would get them into the places where they really couldn't get to. And they were kind of sneaking out. And I'm going to play the clip here
Okay.
now. But you and the other girl are walking away, and the other girl says, "Check out the local competition." And your line was, "I can't. I just had breakfast," meaning a put down of the two obviously guys dressed as girls.
Well, look at the new competition.
I can't. I just had lunch.
And I thought I identified you by the pigtail, and you're both walking through in bikinis and walking out the door. And it sounds like the voice was looped in rather than, because you obviously couldn't see your lips, so so that was part of it. But tell me about that. That was just, I don't know why it's stuck in my mind all these years, but that's the one scene that sticks in my mind.
Fun with.
But they didn't give, outside of Annette and Frankie and some of the other more established stars, they didn't give many lines. You had some lines here and there, which and I think when we spoke earlier, you made the comment, maybe I had a meaningful line or something along that line, because there weren't that many meaningful lines, because these were meant to be fun movies, and they cranked them out over a period of short number of years, and they did like 17 or 18 of them, and you were in like almost all.
We had bikini girls on the set. We had few lines, and we had a lot of smiling to do,
Yeah.
and a lot of kind of shrugging the shoulders and all of that. It was like a big family.
Mhm.
And bikini girls. So that's what we were known as.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of jokes and fun on the set in between scenes. It was just like a big family.
What was it like working with Annette? Because I know from what I had read earlier that obviously she was the only one that didn't wear a bikini. She wore a one piece.
Disney wouldn't let her wear a bikini
Mhm.
because I think she was still doing movies with Disney,
Mhm.
Walt Disney.
And what was the relationship between her, who was an established star, but still about the same age as the rest of you guys, and the rest of the actors and actresses who were on the set?
She was very friendly. We would sit around in a circle in chairs, and we would chit chat, and they'd say, "Okay, bikini girls on the set," and you. It was just very casual, very friendly. Annette was very open and had fun also, and maybe a little guarded because she had to be.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine, and of course, this is the 60s. And so, I mean, even the money, if you're doing background work, isn't very good today. What was the money like? I mean, was it, hey, this is really worth doing, or hey,
It
it's,
was scale. We got scale.
yeah, what was scale back then, though?
I don't know, maybe 250 a week, 350 a week.
Wow. That's, I think it's what, 250 or more net per day now,
Yes.
And of course, gasoline is a lot more than 25 cents a gallon too.
Yes.
You know, um, There must have been, well, let me ask you this before I get to the next question. The bikinis, were they yours or were they provided by the studios?
No, they were ours. There was a bikini shop run by somebody that we knew in La Jolla, and that's where we got ours. And gosh, I'm trying to remember back that far. When Linda and I first started working, we stayed at the Hollywood Studio Club.
Uh-huh.
And then we drive home on the weekends to our husbands.
Uh-huh.
So I think our friend in La Jolla made our bikinis. And I think everybody's brought their own, and most of the girls who were in the films were used to being on the beach, so they had their suits.
Right, right. When it came to the multitude of films, I imagine at
The
some
what two
point,
films?
the multitude of films that you did.
Oh, uh-huh.
I imagine since they were pretty much formulaic, I mean, they were pretty much the same idea over and over. Did they get kind of boring to you, or was it just, okay, we're gonna go to work, have some more fun. I'm gonna do a movie, blah blah blah.
Well, they were silly, and we made fun of them.
Yeah.
And we all sat around the set, and okay, here we go again. And we did a lot of joking and
Did you get a
make
lot of reading done?
reading of scripts or
No
reading.
books. 'Cause
Yeah.
I know they always tell you, okay, you're going to be on the set, bring a book.
Yeah. No, there weren't, nobody brought a book to read that I can remember, because we were so busy relating to each other and joking and having fun and waiting for okay, on the set, girls. We just fooled around.
Well, that's good. Speaking of which, in recent years, we've, battled through the Me Too movement and in Hollywood. And I imagine these movies were ripe for harassment. Was there any of that? Did you see any of it? I mean,
Any of what?
and harassment, because
Oh,
I mean, these movies are obviously ripe for that. You had a lot of girls who wanted to be in movies, a lot of women who maybe, were who would go along with something, or maybe, and those that wouldn't. But it was still a male-dominated business at that time, and
yeah.
going through the pressures of like what we've seen reported in the Me Too movement. I was kind of curious. Was there any of that in these movies as you went along through all of them?
What would you say? Was
As
there
far-
any of what?
Any harassment, sexual harassment?
Oh, no, not that I can remember. I mean, maybe there were jokes, but nothing serious or there weren't, they didn't play around with, with the sexism, the bikinis. It was just always bikini girls. You were just one of the bikini girls.
Mhm. So you went on to other films, of course, but about that time, you also had experienced a tragedy. You married fairly young, if I'm assuming, right?
Yes, I did.
How old were you when you got married?
I think I was 21.
Hmm.
It was 23, or maybe I was 23. I was 26 when I was widowed.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I was working in a film in Hong Kong, and I was on the set, and somebody came out in a car and said, Sally, you need to go back to the hotel. And so I was told that my husband had been killed in a plane crash with Linda's husband, my best friend's husband, who was flying the plane. And he was doing a loop over Windansea Beach, which is the surfing beach that everybody, all the La Jolla guys, and where we were plucked off to be in the films. So I was in such shock. I just couldn't believe it. And so Frankie came up to the room and gave his condolences, and the manager of the group was there, and they put me on a plane, and I took this long trip
Mhm.
back home, and it was just horrific. It was just an awful, they had 2 funerals, and it was just, it was terrifying, and just so sad, so sad.
Mhm.
These 2 guys, these 2 La Jolla surfer guys, going down at surfing beach.
Yeah, that's such a tragedy to think about. I didn't know that when I read about it, I didn't know it was how it happened, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to ask you about it. And from there on, from that point on, I guess did you leave Hollywood at that point, or did you make any more films? Because I think that was about that time, right?
Let me see. I stayed, let me think. I moved into an apartment. Well, I stayed in the apartment that Pete and I had in West Hollywood. It was near the Troubadour. And then finally I rented a little house on Doheny Drive. And eventually I met a couple of people, and I was invited to go live at Peter Tork's house in the valley. It
Peter
was a,
Tork of the Monkees.
yes,
Yes.
and there were about 10 or 11 people living there. It was a huge house.
Really?
It was Wally Cox's house,
Right.
and Peter came into that money, and so he bought it, and there was a pool, and my friend and I shared uh, apartment above the pool house. And Crosby, Stills and Nash would come over in the morning after they'd been in the studio recording their first album. They would take a jacuzzi, a sauna, a swim, go home and sleep all day, and do the same thing.
Yeah.
And you could see, I had brought a hammock that I had, and it was downstairs by the pool, and David Crosby would get in there and just swing back and forth, smoking something,
Right.
being very lazy. But it was a very interesting household because there was so much happening. We would have dinners where in the living room, and we would place tablecloths, Indian tablecloths down in a row, and there'd be maybe 15 people. Joni Mitchell would be there, and she and with Graham Nash, and there was just a lot of, and Stephen Stills was there. There was a music room, so people would go in the music room, and it was all soundproofed, and practice. But anyway, it was an exciting place because there was always something happening.
Yeah. Well, the thing about you mentioned that, and it sounds like it was great in that you had a lot of support and a lot of people who were there around you at a time, because that must have been a really tough time for you professionally as well as personally.
Well, it was, and I really didn't have time to process the grief. And then I went on to do more films and more traveling. I went to Europe for a year, and I ended up living there living in England and in Amsterdam, in a canal house with a friend. And I studied art. I went to the art school there and learned how to paint, and came back to eventually back. I needed to get back to the States
Yeah.
after a while.
Well, you ended up being in a modeling career at that point, right?
I had what?
You
Yeah.
had a modeling career at that point.
Yes, I did. But mainly I was focused on the art,
Wow.
the painting, and
Yeah.
marketing.
Yeah. Which is what you do now, but I want to get to that a little bit later because I want to move to the next phase where you came back from Europe. And how long were you in Europe totally?
I think about 8 years, 8 or 9 years.
So you came home
And I
and
made a lot of friends. I lived in a canal house with a fellow from New York, and his mother was director of the Jewish Museum in New York.
ooh,
He was hiding out in Amsterdam
hiding out.
from his Jewish family. Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, I have a few friends that in New York ran through the same thing where the family really wanted them to become much more into the Jewish lifestyle and religion, and they wanted to be actors instead, and doing very well at that point. A good friend of mine is in that situation. So you come back and you decide at some point to switch to counseling and you go back to school to get a PhD. Now that
Well, I got a master's.
master's, okay.
Yeah, a master's. Yes, I just had this need to be nursing and counseling, and I think it was for my progress as well.
Mhm.
But it was quite an interesting journey.
And you never had any children, but you turned to, if I'm not mistaken, and you turned the counseling to counseling for kids, correct?
Yes, uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Tell me a little bit about that. I mean, is that something maybe that you kind of always wanted to do, or did that come about because of what happened in your life later?
Well, I think it's not what I always wanted to do, but it just happened that it was the progression of my schooling, and because I wasn't married, I didn't have children, I just had that need to interact.
Mhm. And so did you work as a private counselor or did you work with an organization or what?
An organization, different, like maybe a school or uh, some kind of uh, a club, or yeah, just lots of different
Mhm.
means and ways.
You know, it kind of falls into place that you wanted as art because even as an actress, you're in a creative field, and now you are moving into the art field, and you are doing that now. You have your own website, and I believe the website is sallisaxse.com, correct?
Yes, or
Yeah, and I'll put that
sallysucce.com.
on the
Yeah.
at the bottom too. You'll be able to see it there as well as anybody who's watching. And but if for those who are listening on the podcast, it's Salli. She spells it without the E at the end. Last name SACHSE.com.
Yes.
SalliSachse.com. I have to ask you this because I want to go back to the movies and stuff. And I know we talked the fact that you never saw any harassment or anything like that. Did you get the nickname Salli Sexy? Did they give that to you or
Oh, yes, on the
uh,
set, just playing around. Yeah, yeah. Bikini
yeah.
girls, yeah, they fool around with their names.
Yeah, okay. I had to ask because I figured it was there. I mean, it was such a natural for that to happen at that time. And then, of course, you sell your pinups as well as your art. Tell me a little bit about your website and what you're selling and why, and particular things, what you sell on the site.
Uh, well, I did a series of t-shirts and sweatshirts with a painting that I did of some of us beach party people sitting in a woody. And anyway, I maybe have 6 left.
Uh-huh.
It's been about, I don't know, 12 or 15 years. And as I look in my closet, I see there are fewer and fewer. I had a high school reunion a week ago, and I took a handful of those to the reunion, and it was in a patio in La Jolla, very nice on a very nice street, and we sold a lot of them.
Where do you get your inspiration for your art?
Uh, the need to express. Again,
Well, do you have a favorite area of art? I mean, is it beach? Is it non-beach? Is it wood areas? What's your favorite thing to paint?
well, right now I'm looking at a wall with lots of paintings here, and I realize as I look back on my website and on in my archives how many paintings I have sold. And I just came across some of my sales books, receipt books, and they're going back to 1912, the teens, and I realize how many t-shirts and how many paintings I've sold. And
I'm going to correct you. It's 2012. You're not that old. You said
did I say 1912?
yes, you did. That's okay. No, you're allowed.
Yes, so it's been quite a journey marketing, and as I look on my wall, there's a picture here of the Casa pool in La Jolla, where the seals are on the beach, and there's a seal in the water. There's a little doggy with a dress on, and
A doggy with a dress?
yes, a little white doggy with a pink dress on.
Gotcha. Okay. Sort of a ballerina type thing, I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And he's got pink ears and a white face and a little kind of red nose.
Well, I want a lot of people to go to your website. The thing about it, do you also do you paint some of the characters you worked with? Your version, your thoughts of them, like the Frankie Avalons, Funicellos, Linda, or
No, I never did. I never did. Paint them?
Yeah.
Did you? No, I never did. But that's an idea.
Well, Salli, this has been great. Anything else that you'd like to share with those who have enjoyed you over the years and want to follow you and be involved in purchasing and finding out more about Salli Sachse?
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's been a joy talking to you. And I hope to continue. Well, right now I'm focused on, I shot so much film for art things, and now I want to edit all my slides that I did. I've got probably hundreds and hundreds that I have a light table, and I'm going to go through them and just save the best ones.
There you go. I love light tables, by the way. I have one myself. And, I saw a video of you just with music working in your studio.
Uh-huh.
I think I saw it on your website. And I was interested to watch you move everything, your hands and everything. It kind of intrigued me as to when you paint, do you paint with an easel or how do you paint? What's your favorite way to do it?
Well, I usually use an easel. I have different kinds of easels for maybe painting outside or for a show. And sometimes I'll just use a chair as an easel, depending. As I look at all these paintings, a lot of them most of them are outside, like sunsets and water scenes. And
Okay. The one thing you also sell your pinups too. You have an array of pinups. I know there's the black and white stand-up that looks like from your modeling days, and also other pinup photos. You have a selection or array of those that you sell, or is there a whole host of them, or just a few?
Well, on my website, I have different periods of my past, and then I have artwork, and I have like 3 different categories. So there's a lot there to see, and a lot of history, and a lot of artwork as well.
One final question I wanted to ask is, do you still get together with some of the actors and actresses that you worked with in the beach movies?
Well, Linda just died this
Oh,
last year. They're dying off,
yeah, it's sort of a natural part of life,
unfortunately.
right? Yeah,
Yes,
uh,
and that's what happens. I
yeah.
mean, when you get in your 70s, your 80s, time flies, and so do you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I always tell people, I say, dying is just a part of living. So, it's going to happen at some point. And I've experienced the same thing lately. A lot of people passing away in my life, and it just happens when you get older. So, but it's amazing that some of the folks from that era are still around. Frankie Valli is 93, still performing.
Isn't that
Frank,
amazing?
I know Frankie Avalon is still alive. I was just checked on him the other day.
They were always in good health.
Yeah, my good friend Ron Dante, who's in his late 70s, who had the hit Sugar Sugar, and he's still performing 65 dates a year. And
Really?
so and of course he looks like he's 12 still, but that's another
Yeah.
story.
And that action probably keeps him young.
Yeah, and it really does. So, Sally, this has really been an honor for me, and I don't say this lightly, as I've interviewed presidents and movie stars and ball players, and you name it. But I have to say, this is one of the most fun and one I've certainly looked forward to. And
Oh, thank you.
in getting to know you, I know we had some technical issues, but getting to know you through the process before we actually did the interview and finally did the interview, I have to say you've become one of my favorite people. So
Oh, thank
I've just
you.
really enjoyed getting to know you, and it's been fun. So I'll put out the word on your art, and hopefully you make a lot of sales because of your the connections. So, but I just want to say thank you so much, and I really appreciate you coming on.
Well, it was an honor to be on your show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Don't forget, this will wraps up this episode of Interesting People with Bob Brill. Again, Sally's website is sallisachse.com, and that's SALLISACHSE.com. Check it out. I think you'll find some interesting items to purchase. Until next time, I'm Bob Brill.